You think India's just for Che and cricket? Think again. While Bollywood's dancing and spices are winning hearts, 7 countries are quietly freaking out behind closed doors. Why? Because India isn't just rising, it's roaring. Pakistan, existential dread. China, Himalayan headaches. Bangladesh, sidelining and sweating. Sri Lanka, whispering about spies. Maldives, screaming India out. Nepal, caught in a tug of war. Canada, yup, actual cyber sweats. These nations aren't just watching India's moves. They're rearranging their policies, alliances, and even panic buttons because of them. So, what exactly is India doing that has global players pacing their war rooms and issuing threat assessments? Let's dive into the geopolitical tea and uncover why these 7 countries are scared of India. And trust me, it's juicier than a monsoon mango. But before we dive in, if you're new here, hit the subscribe button and leave a comment. I subscribe. And I'll personally welcome you into the family. With that said, let's get started. So, why are these 7 countries feeling the heat? Let's be honest. It's not just India's growing GDP or ISRO's moon landings. It's the sheer scale, speed, and swagger with which India is stepping onto the global stage. These nations aren't scared because India is violent. They're scared because India is capable. Capable of shifting alliances, dominating digital spaces, and influencing power balances without firing a single shot. Now let's break down the scared 7, one by one. Number 1. Pakistan, the always nervous neighbor. For Pakistan, India isn't just a neighbor, it's the nightmare that won't go away. 3 wars, countless skirmishes, and an eternal tug-of-war over Kashmir that keeps both countries on edge like 2 tigers pacing the same cage. But here's the real kicker. Even US defense intelligence admits Pakistan sees India as an existential threat. Not economic competition, not ideological clash, existential. Why? Because India's military might dwarfs Pakistan's. Its economy is 10 times larger, and its global standing is surging. Add to that India's diplomatic moves, strengthening ties with the US, Gulf states, and even Russia. And Islamabad sees itself boxed in from every angle. It's not just fear, it's paranoia in military fatigues. Number 2. China, strategic rivalry and Himalayan headaches. China isn't scared easily. But India? It's the one regional power Beijing just can't ignore. Post-Galwan clash in 2020, where soldiers from both nations battled at 14,000 feet with nails and clubs, tensions have gone from cold to frostbite. India's refusal to be bullied, its growing defense partnerships through the Quad, with Japan, Australia, and the US, and its massive infrastructure development along the border, have all made China sit up straight. India isn't playing checkers. It's playing long-game chess, cutting Chinese apps, diversifying supply chains, and blocking influence in the Indo-Pacific. China may be the dragon, but India is the one holding a fire extinguisher in one hand and a missile program in the other. Number 3. Bangladesh, friends, but worry. Officially, India and Bangladesh are friendly neighbors. Behind the scenes, it's complicated. Yes, there's trade, cultural ties, and diplomacy. But Bangladesh often feels smothered by India's size, politics, and upstream water control. The long-standing dispute over the Teesta River, border skirmishes, and repeated allegations of political interference have triggered a quiet but growing Indophobia. And now, Bangladesh is cozying up to China. Infrastructure deals, tech partnerships, loans. India is watching nervously as Beijing slides into Dhaka's DMs with billion-dollar offers. What scares India here isn't war, it's irrelevance in its own backyard. Number 4. Sri Lanka. Insecurity meets suspicion. If South Asia were a political soap opera, Sri Lanka would be the character whispering, "I don't trust any of you." For decades, India has played big brother to the island nation, but not always the protective kind. Alleged espionage operations by RAW, suspected interference in civil conflicts, and even whispers of involvement in political assassinations have left Colombo looking over its shoulder. In 1987, India literally sent troops to Sri Lanka under a peace accord. Troops that got stuck in a brutal conflict. Then came the expulsion of Indian intelligence agents in the early 2000s. Trust? Yeah, it's hanging by a coconut thread. Now, with India joining forces with the US through initiatives like the Quad, Sri Lanka's fear is simple. If China pulls back, India steps in, filling the power vacuum with policies and boots that might not sit well with its national autonomy. To Sri Lanka, it's less about war and more about waking up one day to realize you become a satellite nation in someone else's orbit. Number 5. Maldives, India out. Paradise with politics. The Maldives might look like a tropical dream, but it's been boiling with a diplomatic fever called India out. Under President Mohamed Muizzu, the tiny island nation made a not-so-tiny demand. Get Indian troops out. Now. This wasn't just a press release. It sparked mass protests, nationalist speeches, and a full-blown diplomatic earthquake. Mal's leadership sees India's presence, military or otherwise, as sovereignty erosion, a polite way of saying, "You're overstaying your welcome." India, on the other hand, insists its troops are only there for humanitarian missions, aircraft operations, and defense cooperation. But in a region where geopolitical tug-of-wars are real, the optics matter more than the intent. What's India really afraid of here? That its regional dominance, especially in the Indian Ocean, is slipping. And that China, with its blank checks and Belt and Road charms, is waiting just off the coast. Number 6. Nepal, pivoting toward China. Nepal is India's next-door neighbor with open borders, but increasingly closed-door meetings with Beijing. Once solidly under India's diplomatic influence, Nepal has started giving Delhi cold shoulders and cozying up to China. Why? Because China is offering roads, railways, and trade deals without the historical baggage. Nepali politicians often accuse India of acting like a colonial leftover, meddling in constitutional matters, border disputes, and fuel supplies. And let's not forget the infamous 2015 blockade, which many Nepalese still view as a strategic punishment by India. Add geography to the mix. If China can deepen its ties with Nepal, it can press against India's vulnerable northern flank, adding military and diplomatic pressure where it hurts. To India, a pro-China Nepal isn't just awkward. It's a strategic liability wrapped in mountains and mistrust. Number 7. Canada, cyber fears and diplomatic fart. From maple syrup to malware, Canada and India are now locking horns in cyberspace. In a shocking move, Canada officially listed India as a cyber threat in its 2025-26 National Cyber Threat Assessment. The charge? Pro-India hacktivists allegedly targeting Canadian interests, media, and political groups. But the real volcano erupted when Prime Minister Trudeau accused India of being involved in the assassination of a Sikh separatist on Canadian soil, something India firmly denied. Diplomats were expelled. Visas were suspended. Relations froze faster than a Toronto winter. India, a nation that's all about rising soft power, suddenly found itself branded a cyber villain and international suspect. And Canada, caught between internal politics and international pressure, it now views India with both suspicion and strategic discomfort. From the icy coasts of Canada to the sun-soaked shores of the Maldives, countries across the world are realizing something. India is no longer the underdog. It's the disruptor, the counterbalance, the wild card. And whether it's boots on the ground, tech in the cloud, or influence in parliaments, India's presence is impossible to ignore, and even harder to challenge. So yes, these 7 countries are scared, and maybe they should be. Because the world's largest democracy is now playing to win. So whether it's border tensions in the Himalayas, cyber warfare in the West, or diplomatic power plays across the Indian Ocean, one thing's crystal clear: India is no longer just participating in the global game. It's redefining the rules. These 7 countries aren't reacting out of paranoia. They're responding to a nation that's rising fast, thinking bigger, and refusing to be boxed in. The days of underestimating India are over. The world is watching, and some of it is watching nervously. With that said, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And until next time.